Alright, we all love happy stories with happy endings, right? So here's one. There was once a little girl born to Bengali parents, engineers, both of them. Like every typical Bengali household, her parents were a little too concerned about her future right from the start. After all, she was to grow up and become an engineer just like them, right? So the sooner the grooming began, the better it'd be for her, they thought. So she was put to play school at the age of 2.5. But surprisingly, as she started growing up, she started showing affinity for music out of the blue. Thankfully, her super supportive parents made sure she received all the right kind of training to cultivate her love for music. She grows up, she starts getting a lot of attention due to her skills, opportunities start flooding her way. She grows up and becomes a very successful musician. Her parents are super happy and proud of her, and they live happily ever after. The end. The perfect fairy tale I'd narrate to my daughter to put her to bed. No, but for real, life would be so cool if it was really like a fairy tale, no? No downs, no dips, just a perfect smooth cakewalk. But God, oh God, it isn't that way. Even Harry Potter had to battle the three-headed dog, weird-looking giants, soul-sucking flying shadows and whatnot in high school alone, in spite of having magic wands and spells. So who am I to complain? But for real, like, what would a story be without the mad twists and turns? And what would life be without the mad decisions, the crazy hustle, the falls, the fumbles, the tumbles and failures? I mean, that's what makes life worth it. And after around 2 decades on the planet, trust me, at this point I feel like it all starts to make sense. So far that you don't give up. Did I introduce myself? No, right? Oh, hi. Namaste. I am Antara Nandy, 24 years of age. I get to proudly say that I'm a singer, songwriter, social media influencer, and a playback singer today. I get to wake up every morning and do what I love for a living. But the route to getting here hasn't exactly been, how do I put this? Like the Bombay-Mysore Expressway? Super smooth. No, none of that. It was more like Mumbai roads during rains. More potholes than roads, really. If you haven't figured out already, the little girl I spoke about, that's me. And the story, my life, but not quite. I've realized that life is a lot more about the downs as opposed to the ups. It's a lot more about the criticism, the falls and the dark lows, as opposed to acceptance, appreciation, and happy highs. But here's the thing, it's how you look at those things and those situations and what you decide to do there, which decides your path ahead in life. And no matter how difficult a situation you are stuck in, there's always going to be two roads ahead of you. One, the easier, more convenient path, and one, the slightly tougher one. Too many big words, huh? Okay, let me put it in perspective for you. I was 4.5 years old when I started to train in Hindustani classical music. My super supportive parents made sure they provided me with all the right kind of training. They moved from Assam to Kolkata just so I could receive the perfect training for Hindustani classical music. But at the same time, they also made sure that I knew that music was only going to be an incentive for me. Only and only if I studied hard enough and I scored well at school was I allowed to sing at home. So here's what I had to do to pursue my passion. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning, go to school by 6:15. I'd wake up at 5 for my riyaz, by the way, leave for school at 6:15, spend the day at school, leave for music class right after school, go for tuitions till 9 p.m. During high school, that extended to 10 p.m. I'd come back home. If I wasn't dead tired by then, I'd study a little more, go to bed, wake up at 5 again next morning, and the drill repeats. And I had no complaints because at the end of the day, I could still do what I loved, sing. It wasn't until I think I was 9 when I first became a part of a national television reality show, which by the way was a complete accident and was completely unplanned. But it was only after I got to be a part of a national television reality show that I started to think that maybe, just maybe, I am not all that random. That's what happens when you suddenly get a lot of validation from people you've only read about in magazines or watched on the television screen. You start to feel like maybe this could be a career option, you know. Now all of a sudden I had all these new dreams. Now I did not want to just keep music as a passion. I wanted it to be my profession. I wanted to be a professional singer. Up until that point, life was pretty cool, you know. But then the downs started hitting one at a time. As soon as I was back from the reality show, my Guruji decided not to take me back under his tutelage. He decided not to teach me anymore. I was devastated. There were two places on the whole entire planet that I could call home. Of course, my own house, and apart from that, my music school, because that was the only other place where I could express the way that I knew how to express, musically. I never had to think about judgment. I could completely just be myself, and now the doors to that house was shut forever. And moreover, I had all these new ambitions and goals. I now suddenly wanted to become a musician professionally. Who was going to guide me ahead? My parents were super enthusiastic, but they were engineers who had no idea about this line. Now I had nobody to tell me right from wrong, how I'd go ahead. I was just stuck, and all these dreams and ambitions started weighing down on me. I just felt stupid for having these dreams. Remember, I was talking about these two paths sometime back? This was the exact moment when my mom said this to me for the first time. She said, whenever you are stuck, when you think everything's over for you, remember, it's not. There's always going to be two paths ahead of you. One, the slightly easier, more convenient path, and the other, the comparatively tougher one. In this situation, my easier path would be to keep music as my hobby, the way that it has been so many years, take academics a little more seriously, work hard, follow in my parents' footsteps, eventually become an engineer, and since they've been into this field all these years, they would definitely be able to guide me better. The tougher way, however, would be to knock down the wall that stood in the way of me and my dreams, carve my own path, irrespective of whether or not I had somebody to guide me ahead. Nobody's going to care when you make it. Nobody's going to ask you who helped you. At the end of the day, did you make it? That's all people are going to care about. And that's all that you are going to care about. Depend on nobody but yourself, is what my mom said. Considering I'm a full-time musician now, guess I took the second path ahead. Here's what I did. We went to every single CD store in the locality and bought my Guruji's CDs. And I'd listen to those on loop. I used to look up his performances online, and I used to try and learn Hindustani classical by rote, which, let me tell you, is far from the actual way of learning classical music. But I had no other way. I was kind of doing what Eklavya did. Eklavya wanted to learn archery from Guru Dronacharya, and Guru Dronacharya wouldn't teach him. So the only way he could learn was by watching Dronacharya teach other people. That's pretty much what I was trying to do. My mom would take me to ITC Sangeet Research Academy every week. That, by the way, is the academy where my Guruji himself was trained. Now, they'd have recitals and performances of their resident scholars every week. And you were, it was open to all. You could just go there and watch. So we'd go there for 3 years, every week. I'd go there, listen, record, take notes, analyze, try and learn what other people were singing. I did that for 3 years. After that, with a little nudge from my mom and a lot of battling inside, we gathered a little courage and I went for the auditions of Sangeet Research Academy in Kolkata, which, let me tell you, is by far the most nerve-wracking auditions that I've ever appeared for. I qualified it. I became a scholar at the academy, and now I had a guru. They appointed a guru for me. I had somebody to call Guruji. After 3 years of not knowing what to do, just bloody looking for help, I finally had somebody who would tell me when I was doing something wrong, who would scold me for not doing my homework on time, who would hold the torch ahead of me. It did feel like a personal victory, because these 3 years, we had nobody to tell us what to do. We kept fighting. So after 3 years of overcoming one of the biggest and first obstacles of my life, which I really thought would be career ending, it did feel like a personal victory. Few years down the line, I had by then started getting some commissioned work as a musician. I was, I think, 13 or 14. That's when I got a call from a music director, eminent one at that. I went for the recording. I did the recording. Guess what I was told after the recording? I was told, hey, I hear you're a bright student at school and your parents are engineers. I said, yeah, that's true. I was very proud of it. Then the respected music director said, "So then why are you wasting everyone's resources and time trying to do something that's not your cup of tea? Your voice is anyway not sweet enough for you to become a musician." Telling a 13 or 14-year-old that the only dream that you've ever had is pointless. And the reason is that your voice isn't sweet enough. Now I'll tell you why that is frustrating to musicians. Any musicians in the house? Anyone? Okay, I see. So you'll understand this. I'll tell you why it's very frustrating to hear that your voice is not good enough. It's because as a musician, you can work on your skill set. You can work on your tans, your gamaks, your therao, your gaiki. But you can't work on your voice. Your voice is your default setting. You're given that. You're born with a tone. Want it or not, gotta live with it. And I was told that my voice was the reason I should not become a singer. I broke. I thought, what on earth was I doing? Why was I daydreaming all this time? And just when I thought it couldn't get any worse than that, I lost my voice. When I say I lost my voice, I went through a voice change period, which girls usually don't go through, guys might relate. I went through a voice change period wherein I completely lost my voice. I went mute. And when I tried to sing, I used to sound very hoarse. I didn't know what to do. I thought it was the end of the world, completely. Let me throw some light on how my life looked as a whole from a third person's perspective. So I was sort of trying to live like two people in one body, Hannah Montana. So there was the musician side and there was the school-going side. So the musician side, this is what was happening. So I was going to music school, learning stuff, battling with what the hell is on with my voice, why can't I sing, who's going to give me the next opportunity, what happens next, self-doubt and all that mess. And then the school-going self had a whole other issue going on. Now since I had a little national visibility, it was an easy approach, unfortunately, for most teachers at school to say things like, oh, she's into music and all that, she's not serious about academics. Ye to gaane bajane wali hai, isse kahan padhai hoga? So I had to work twice as hard to prove that I was just as efficient at school as I was a musician. I couldn't slack down. There was no space for that. If other girls could go to school in a ponytail, I had to oil my hair, braid it, put ribbons and go to school. If other kids could get a 70 to be called a good enough student, I had to push for an 80 to be called an average student. And then there was the constant judgment and comparison. Isme kya khas hai? What special does she have? You know XYZ? She sings so much better and ABC also plays the harmonium. I don't know what she did to get there. School is the one place you spend the most amount of your time, right? So it's supposed to be your second home, you're supposed to feel at peace, but unfortunately I could not because I had to constantly prove myself to everybody at all times. I had to keep pushing myself to just prove the fact that, you know, I'm good enough, you know, I'm trying, I'm there. Just to see other people validate me and say, Antara, you're good enough. But I never heard that. I never felt that at school. You've all heard the story of the crow and the pitcher, right? The thirsty crow, he comes, drops pebbles in the pitcher, the water comes up just at the brim, the crow drinks it, flies away. At that point, I started feeling like that pitcher. And the pebbles were all these uncalled for burdens piling up one after the other. And water was really at the brim, just at the verge to overflow. Thankfully, my parents noticed that. They decided to take the weekend off with me. So all four of us, my younger sister, I, my parents, we decided to go to the nearest beach from Kolkata, my favorite place of all times. And I remember playing some of my favorite songs in the car, and for the first time in a long time, I stopped caring about how I sound, whether I'm hitting the right notes, whether I'm sweet enough. I just let go and I sang all those songs in the car with my entire family at the top of my voice, and we had so much fun. I needed that weekend off. After we were back home, my mom sat me down again and she reminded me of the two roads once again, the easier and the tougher. The easier way here, she said, would be to remain a negative, vengeful person and keep ranting about all things that are not working in your favor. And just be sad about it. That's it. You have nothing to do about it. The tougher way, however, would be to embrace the one thing that you detest most about yourself. And at that point, it was my voice. I decided to do the craziest thing ever. I decided to put out my first YouTube video, my first YouTube cover, Rolling in the Deep by Adele. The video is still there. And it is by far the single most embarrassing video on my channel, but I do not intend on taking it down anytime soon, because every time I revisit it, it reminds me of all the internal battles I had to fight just to convince myself to make a public display of my biggest insecurity at that time, my tone, my voice. Now it was out in the open for anybody and everybody to judge, to criticize, to troll, and I was trolled. I was trolled for my tone, I was trolled for my fake accent, I was trolled for a weird looking video, but it was a first step that I'm very proud of. You know, you receive help when you need it the most and expect it the least. Just around that time, I got to train in Rahman Sir's academy, Mr. A.R. Rahman's academy in Chennai. I remember after the first few sessions at the academy, I came back to the hotel room, I sat my mom down, and I was like, Ma, I can sing. I can sing Lataji's songs, and I'm able to sing those songs in her pitch. And I remember singing one Lataji song after the other, the entire evening, tears rolling down my face and my mom's. All I needed was a little nudge in the right direction and a little correction of techniques. Around the same time, my social media journey began. It began very randomly, let me tell you that. So, I was based in Calcutta at that time, and I was in high school. My videos, by the way, Instagram wasn't a big thing back then, it was Facebook. So that's where I started posting videos. My videos would look super shabby. I used to be seated in a dimly lit living room, looking tired as hell after tuition, and I'd sing random songs with my electronic tanpura. I'd get like 30-40 views, out of which 10 views would be my mom's, because she'd keep checking kitne views aaye. And around that time, Leslie Lewis sir commented on one of my videos, and very soon after that, Bhupinder Singh ji commented on a video. So for that teenage me, these two comments felt like the biggest rays of hope, because I was looking for the next platform. Who was going to give me the next platform? Who should I approach? I knew nobody. But these two comments, it felt like if I could just sit in one corner of Kolkata and post a video, and that could reach somebody else sitting at the other corner of the globe without me having to take it to them in person, maybe this was the way ahead. So I remember that was the point when I decided to post consistently. I started to consistently post, and then the journey from 50 views to dreaming of 50k views to reaching 5 million views, it happened within a week. All of a sudden, I was all over media. All the people that I thought and expected and hoped and prayed to take notice of me started to comment on my videos. Sonu Nigam ji, Anushka Shankar ji, Shankar Mahadevan sir, Atan Sami ji, they started sharing and commenting on my videos. I thought, oh gosh, I'm doing everything right. It's finally happening. My 0 followers page rose to 2.5 million on Facebook. We were super duper happy, because now that I think about it, I used my social media like my personal reality show, right? It was my platform. I had 100% control on it. I was putting up my content, showing my talent, showcasing my talent on my platform. If I was good enough and my work was loud enough, the biggies of the industry would take notice, which they did. And about the grooming, fantastic grooming, because if you're not good enough, your audience trolls you well enough. And if you're lucky enough, you get constructive criticism, which you can work on for your next content. And might I add, massive worldwide visibility. So I felt amazing, but we hardly got the time to celebrate that 2.5 million followers before we could even process it. My page got hacked and deleted before we could retrieve it. All these years of work, while I was in high school and a science student, all of it was just gone. Poof. No retrieving, nothing. My only platform, my only portfolio, by the way, it was just gone. The page that you see today on Facebook, it took me 3 whole years to reach 1 million. Nothing in my life has been drastic and dramatic. Nothing happened overnight. Everything, unfortunately, took a lot of time. Cut to lockdown 2020. I had just graduated from college, and I was super excited because I was finally going to move to Mumbai and pursue my career as a musician full-time, and I was going to meet all these people who had been commenting on my videos. It was super exciting, the whole thing. And then we were all bummed because lockdown. We were stuck indoors with nowhere to go. I was frustrated and super angry. That's when my younger sister Ankita and we came up with a new series called Balcony Concerts, wherein we'd stand with ukuleles in our hand on our balcony and we'd sing folk songs at large, some film songs too here and there. We covered 24 languages over 36 episodes, and little did we know that series would be the biggest boost to our careers. We did as many as 173 virtual shows. We didn't even know virtual shows could be a thing, but we did as many as 173 virtual shows for some of the leading corporates of the country. After lockdown opened, since then, till date, touch wood, I thank my stars, Ankita and I haven't sat at home a single day. We've been gigging and working on some of the most exciting projects. I got to work with the iconic duo Salim Suleiman right after lockdown on a project for the Finance Ministry of the country for Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. 2022, my dream year. I got a call from Rahman sir's office saying that I was finally going to sing for one of the biggest films that released in 2022, PS1, Ponniyin Selvan 1 by Mani Ratnam sir, and I got to sing one of the songs in the film in 4 languages. All the 4 languages are languages that I don't speak, by the way. From worshipping posters of Rahman sir to being told don't dream of being a singer, to finally making it as a playback singer, I'd say we've come a full circle, and the journey has definitely not been easy, but it's been something for sure. And I am proud of the downs more than the victories, because it's that keeps me grounded and helps me remember all the struggles I had to go through to get here, which is why I never take anything for granted. Ankita and I, we have recently made our debut in the Bengali film industry for one of the biggest production houses. It comes out during Durga Puja. I leave for my first solo US tour in a couple of days. All the dreams that I had as a child are coming true one by one. And I can see it happening. And it makes me feel, I don't know, I have no words to express how this makes me feel, because there was a point where I thought my dreams were pointless. But now standing here, one thing I can say for sure is the fact that if you have the courage to dream, if you dreamt, क्योंकि सपना देखना तो बेसिक होता है ना, सपना तो देखना ही है, बट सपने को फॉलो अप करना भी बेसिक ही होना चाहिए. If you had the courage to dream, have the courage to follow up on that dream, no matter how difficult it gets. Because no matter how difficult a situation you think you are in, it's never the end. There is always going to be 2 roads ahead of you. The easier and the tougher one. And you know within yourself which to choose. I'd like to end this speech right now, but I am a singer. Come on, I can't leave without singing. So there's this one song which has presently become like my go-to song every time I feel down or low, or I feel like, oh gosh, it's all over for me. This song has become my go-to song, so I'll try and sing it. Am I audible enough? घायल परिंदा है तू, दिखला दे जिंदा है तू, बाकी है तुझ में हौसला, तेरे जुनू के आगे अंबर पनाहे मांगे, कर डाले तू जो फैसला. रूठी तकदीर तो क्या, टूटी शमशीर तो क्या, टूटी शमशीरों से ही ओ, कर हर मैदान फतेह, कर हर मैदान फतेह, कर हर मैदान फतेह रे बंदिया, हर मैदान फतेह. Thank you. Thank you so much.